Hey Rebel Scum viewers, welcome back to another Jumbo review today. We're going to be taking a look at a different property within Star Wars. We're going to the world of prequels finally, so very excited about this one. Of course you could tell from the title, but just in case you didn't read that, it's going to be the new Darth Maul Jumbo that just released. Start with the package here. As you can see, this is all new territory. Nobody, not Hasbro, not Gentle Giant, has done sort of retro on the prequels yet. So they, very similar style with Maul's face there on the front. They went with the red pillbox. I think that's very fitting for Maul in his skin tone. It's been a color they used before on card backs for Stormtroopers, so Kenner has used that in the past. And then of course on the back we just got the movie shot of Maul with a double-bladed lightsaber. No surprise jumbos for us this time, no reveals. Everything that we see here has come out before, so nothing new there. So quickly just looking at the package, one thing I noticed, and I hadn't seen any production samples or anything before, is the lightsaber. So going into this, I was expecting if Kenner did a lightsaber, it probably would have just been one solid piece for a double-bladed lightsaber. I mean, it would have been one solid piece, one color. They went with a couple colors here, and we'll see. It might be different pieces in there. We'll check it out in a minute. So a little different, but I mean, no one's done a prequel figure before. We did see the pseudo prequels in the Obi-Wan series from Hasbro, where they did like the Inquisitor and the Fifth Brother and the Third Sister with lightsabers, and those were all one color, one piece, one mold essentially. So I kind of expected something similar like that for Darth Maul, but let's check this guy out and see where they might have drew some inspiration from on this piece. But let's get right into him. And now our standard jumbo unboxing. Of course, if I owned a massive warehouse, I'd keep all my clamshells, but that's just not feasible. So I always toss these guys after I open them, with few exceptions for special edition ones. But I do love the card backs. I keep those. They're easy to store, a whole bunch of them. Actually use my Wampa box to store all of them. They fit in there nicely. So we just have our character here. And as always, I recommend using sprue cutters to get these little tabs out without disturbing the figure or scratching the paint job or anything like that. So really easy to pick up at a hobby shop, and you could just come from behind here and just trim them really quick around the arms, so that way you don't have to worry about damaging the figure, and no frustration with the opening. So nice and easy, really quick. These are sharp, they do the job in a second, so preferred way. So let's check out the detail on this guy here in a close-up. You can see they went with the same style cape that we saw for a lot of figures in that first 12 wave. Darth Vader, Obi-Wan, even the Jawa if you had the vinyl one, and yeah, that fold over flap that you could also, if you wanted to, turn it into a hood. But I think it fits. It's sort of like a nice looking Sith robe that matches Darth Vader's. Maul actually did wear a robe, unlike Vader with just the cape. So I think this would even work if you wanted to, pop the collar and make it a hood up version as well. So I think it's a nice design decision here. And yeah, you can see the detail on his undergarment here and his pants, on the boots. So a nicely detailed jumbo, but still keeping to the level of detail you're limited to with Kenner kind of style. The face has a lot of detail in it, particularly the eyes. So that's a little bit, I think, above and beyond what a Kenner figure would have looked like. The eyes probably would have just been one single color, just yellow, I guess, instead of having this much depth on them. You can see the hands here. They're a little bit different. Instead of just having one hand flat and one weapon holding hand, they're both kind of weapon holding hands. So I think it gives you the option of holding the lightsaber across or in one hand if you wanted to. So they're designed specifically for a two-handed character. We haven't had any two-handed lightsaber wielders in the jumbo line before, so I think this works. This kind of works perfectly with this character. We'll just check out the lightsaber here. It's got a little clip on it as well. So again, these little clippers come in handy. All right, so this one here, I'm assuming they kind of designed it similar to the Darth Vader telescoping lightsabers that we saw in the first generation of figures. So we'll see if this, I don't see any buttons, so maybe it just pulls out. Yep. So it pulls out a little bit, and then of course it's got that tip on the end like we saw lightsabers in that earlier generation there. So I'll give you a close-up so you can see these tips down here. And yeah, I mean, I think that also works. I was expecting just a single color, single piece, red all the way, the hilt, the blade. That would have been more in keeping of the style of Kenner figures. And this is a little bit of a divergence. It's also kind of semi-transparent. Weren't a lot of transparent accessories. Some of the guns back then were semi-translucent, but not like to the point where it was visible without a light. So they did a little bit of a different design on this one, but telescoping lightsabers aren't anything new. We've seen that before. I'll do a roundup of lightsaber comparisons on what we've seen in the past here. So I think they're pulling from that. So that kind of works with still keeping with the Kenner design. And it's kind of cool. I mean, for this character, it's nice to have a retractable lightsaber, and you can't mount a double-bladed lightsaber on his arm because you won't see the second blade. I just don't understand how the engineering would work in that case. So let's quickly test here if he could grip it. So it's just wide enough that it can make it into both his hands if you wanted to, and you could extend the blade. I think this is the maximum extension, at least. This is all it's letting me pull it out. So you could extend the blade a little bit to get that double-bladed look. Or, like I was saying before, if you wanted to just put it in one hand, you could do that as well, although it's not going to stay very well. Most hands are notorious for being difficult to hold weapons. This one's the opposite. So I guess you got to use the right hand here. But you could do it in one hand as well. So that's pretty, I think it's pretty neat. I still like it. I think the one color would have been more fun because it's just sort of in keeping with the simplistic design of the Kenner figures. But this is uncharted territory. We haven't seen any prequel characters yet. So I think they really have the ability to, the license sort of to do what they want in that case, because they're trailblazers in the prequel vintage or prequel retro style characters at this point. But let's get some close-ups of him with his saber here, and then we'll check out sort of a comparison of other lightsabers in the line. Here's a close-up look at him and his saber. It actually does extend a little bit more. It's double telescoping, just like those really hard to track down Luke's and Vader's and Obi-Wan's from the original releases. Yeah, it will come out fully. That little tiny part with a little tug will come out as well. So I think that's kind of cool since it's a double-bladed lightsaber. It's double telescoping, so that kind of fits with the theme. So I'm a little bit more sold on it now. I think that's really neat. So they kind of drew inspiration from a hybrid of the individual lightsabers and the double telescoping options that the earlier Kenner figures had. Well, that's Darth Maul. I wanted to show you just sort of the history of lightsabers we've seen in the Kenner line and then in the Gentle Jumbo line to see where some features are coming from other previous designs and where some have a little bit of a creative liberty to them. So starting with the Vader, these were the earliest in the Kenner line with lightsabers and in the Jumbo lines as well. These were retractable. They came out here. Some of them had double telescoping action on the older ones. And they had these tips in addition to the longer one. These always broke off on the figures. So you can see very similar design here with the tip in addition to the main blade. And it's retractable. Now these ones they were embedded in the arm and they never went all the way in. So this one doesn't go all the way in, but it's not embedded. It's a separate piece, which we go to Luke in the Bespin line here. When the Empire Strikes Back wave came out, then we got individual lightsabers that you could remove. But the difference here is these were all one color. We didn't have a separate colored hilt or a separate colored blade. They did change in color. We had green with the Jedi Knight or blue depending on your variant. And then recently we showed you the new Luke Skywalker pilot that came with the yellow and the blue with a flat top, but not much change there and still one color, very similar to how Kenner would have done it. And then of course we have the Luke concept who has a new lightsaber design. It's again, you could remove it, but still all one color, no difference in the hilt or anything like that. So we come to the Maul now, which is our latest lightsaber design in this retro aesthetic. So he's got retractable blades. They're transparent. He has a separate colored hilt. And there's actually another color on the hilt, these little red buttons. So all the accessories to date, I don't think I can recall a single one that has a second color on it. They're always just one color. They're monochromatic across. They're either blue, black, yellow, something like that. There's no second color on it. So a lot different on this one. And I think they had a little bit of creative license with it. No one's done the retro prequel figures yet, so this is a first for us. I mentioned earlier we didn't see a prototype on what the lightsaber was going to look like in all the promotional stills. It was just the figure, so we had no idea. Was expecting just a single blade, so this is a pleasant surprise. Would have been happy with both, but I like having a little bit more display ability out of this with being able to, of course, retract the blade here or extend it and just get a more range out of this character as opposed to just having this single blade. And I think that's part of what they're going for here is creating more fun. We're getting away from that those original 99 with designs like this and exploring some new avenues with the prequels. And I think this is a little bit of an experimental one, but it's cool. I really appreciate it. They put a lot more detail into the face than you would have expected with a Kenner figure. So between that and the detail they put into the weapon, they sort of want Kenner plus a little bit. Most of the figures to date we've seen kind of kept with that very simplistic design and simple color palettes. So this is a little bit of a step up. So a little different, but still it's drawing some inspiration. As you can see, similar cape styles and color sort of tones of shiny and dull parts here. So I think they sort of kept that alive while bringing just a little bit of modernity, if that's a word to it. So a little bit different, but still think it's pretty great. You should be able to pick up this guy now. He should be shipping from Gentle Giant or from fan channels. So you could order him. I don't know if you get him in time for Christmas. Maybe if you put a rush shipping on him, you can get him in the next 2 weeks. He'd look great under the tree, or just displayed wherever you're setting up your Star Wars holiday display, which I'm sure some of you probably have one. So check them out. That's all for today. As always, like, subscribe, and follow. I'll have a different little bit of a look for you coming up in the next week or two. It's going to be a retrospective looking at the Death Star throughout the years. So a little tease on that one. So tune back in for that. Keep checking the website every day. There's always something new on Rebel Scum. So until next time, take care, you Rebel Scum.